going on, everybody? How are y'all doing today? And War Games has officially come to an end for 2025, so it is time to get into everything that did happen on this WWE PLE. But as always, before we get anywhere into the video, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. Go follow the socials, links to those will be in the description of this video. That includes my Instagram account, my X account. Do all that, but one more thing, also be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments. I do read your comments, so if you, whether that's leaving your thoughts on the show or just debating my thoughts, leave all that down below. Helps me a ton. But like I said, now let's get you guys straight on into this year's War Games recap. Alright, so we would kick off the show with the women's War Games match, and overall, I think it was good. I just think there was some good moments and some bad moments, which we're going to get into here. So we're going to start off with some of my favorite moments. So some of my favorite moments here, I think there was a moment where, I believe, yeah, it was Charlotte and Alexa, and I believe they did a double natural selection to, I believe, which was Becky and Asuka. So I think that was like kind of cool, like chemistry and teamwork between Charlotte and Alexa. Another thing that I did like as well was when Io Sky came out, because she was obviously on she was obviously involved in this War Game. She brought a kind of like a little trash can topper that had her name on it, and there was a few cool moments with this one, and specifically we had seen like Io, she would like jump off the top, one of the top ropes, and then she would freaking get hit by Kairi Sane with it, and it looked pretty freaking gnarly. Another cool thing that happened with that same weapon, Io Sky would use it against Asuka with a bullet train attack in the corner, but you know that the trash can topper would get nailed right into Asuka's face, which I think was pretty cool, made some harsh impact, so I think that was pretty cool as well. Then at some point we would obviously see Rhea Ripley come out. She was actually the last one to come out on her team, so she would come out. She would bring two trash cans. One of them also had Io Sky's name on it. And one thing that was cool that happened with that, in my opinion, was there's actually two things. But first, we had seen with the trash can, it was put on Kairi Sane while Rhea Ripley had her locked in a submission, and then Kairi Sane would kind of go off the ropes a few times, and then, or not Kairi Sane, Io Sky would go off the ropes a few times, and then do kind of like a baseball slide type of thing, right to the trash can, and it made a pretty good dent. So I know damn well that had to hurt, but overall looked like a pretty cool spot and move in my opinion. Also with a trash can, you know, it's War Games, Io Sky's in it, there's a trash can, you kind of already knew. She goes to the top rope at the end, and then she puts the trash can over herself, and then she does a gnarly freaking swanton bomb down to everybody, which pretty much takes out everybody on Becky Lynch's team except Becky Lynch herself. Inevitably though, we would get to where we do see I believe we did see a riptide by Rhea to Becky, and then we would see the Black Widow by AJ Lee, which tapped out Becky Lynch, and then obviously AJ Lee's team does pick up the win here. So those are pretty much some of my favorite moments, but some of the more things that I kind of like did not like is I feel like the numbers game at times was not very prominent, you know, because obviously before all these War Games matches, we have advantage matches. In this case, who had the advantage here was AJ Lee's team. They had the advantage, so they would have more stars in at once until all stars were in. But I feel like there was times that the numbers game was just not very prominent, man. One moment in specifically is at the start when we had two members of AJ Lee's team in the ring, and then it was one member of the other team, which I believe at the time was Asuka. You know, I feel like it just kind of did not feel like the numbers game was really there, because it kind of was just like one member of the team that had the advantage was down, while it was pretty much just like a one-on-one going on, you know. So the point is, I just think the numbers game was not very prominent for most of the time. It was at some points, don't get me wrong, but not the entire time. Another thing that I feel like was not as prominent is just the overall entire gimmick of this match as well, which is obviously War Games. I feel like it really did not feel like a war to me. You know, when you hear War Games, it's supposed to be a brutal freaking match. Was it brutal at times? I would say, yeah. I would say there were some pretty cool things that showcased war, but there was also times where, some good amount of times where I just feel like it didn't seem like a War Games, you know? So it's just kind of like, half and half, it really just depends on how you really looked at the match. I feel like for most of it though, it didn't really feel too much like a War Games. Another one of my favorite moments though that I did forget to mention was, we already know how Charlotte kind of backed out of the team before this War Games match because Rhea Ripley was also going to be on the same team, and she doesn't really like her. But in this match, we would see we would see Charlotte Flair save Rhea Ripley, which is pretty cool as well. So kind of like a full circle moment type of thing. But yeah, man, those are really like my favorites. My favorite moments. My really like less favorite moments that happened in this match. But like I said, though, our winners here were AJ Lee's team, and overall, I would say it was a good opener. You know, I feel like this match had it. Like I said, it had its good things, it had its bad things. Overall, though, as far as an opener to the show, I would say it was good. I feel like it could have been better, absolutely. But, you know, I don't think it was that bad. And I also don't think it was that great. It was pretty good, you know? In my opinion, it was good, and there's really not much else to it. All right, so now we would jump into John Cena versus Dominic Mysterio. And I gotta be honest, man, for most of this match, it was mostly reused. But definitely at the end, things got better, like really freaking better, in my opinion. But hey, let's jump into it. So, yes, John Cena versus Dominic Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship. Obviously, John walking in as our champion here. The reason why I say most of it was reused, because as you can expect, it's mostly just shenanigans from Dominic Mysterio the entire match. So it starts the first any type of shenanigans that we do have. We do see Dom. He pretty much fakes being injured, and and then we see Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. They come in the ring and they freaking attack John Cena, and then that leads to Dominic faking. Was where we understand where the injury was fake, because it really did seem like it was real, because it lasted a good amount of time, man. Like, we generally thought it was real, and they even called the medics over. But like I said, inevitably Roxanne Perez and Raquel would get in the ring, attack Cena, then Dominic would shoot back up, do his 619, do the frog splash. The ref would not count it, though. He would not count it because he's pissed at Dom for faking that injury. Which this would then lead to Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. They would get thrown out of the arena, thrown out of the ring, so they would have to go back to the backstage. The next type of shenanigans that we do get is with Dominic's boot. He unzips his boot, and when John Cena's trying to pull him back, the boot does fall off. This would inevitably lead to the ref getting knocked down by a shoulder tackle, because Dominic would move out of the way, and Cena would accidentally nail the ref. So the ref goes down, and then he's pretty much down the entire match until the very end. Then we do see the Judgment Day come out, so we do see Finn Balor and JD McDonough. They come out, start beating up John Cena. And from this we do get a pretty cool moment. We do see a double attitude adjustment from John Cena to Finn and JD, which is pretty cool. And then they're pretty much out for the rest of the match as well. And then we get to the big one, the big main event here. We get to where we see the return of Liv Morgan, man. Liv Morgan is back, so let's go. That is a big W, probably the best thing that happened in this match, in my opinion. So Liv Morgan is back tonight. So she comes out, and this is where things get crazy, man. She gets in the ring, she just stares at Dom, and she just stands pretty much in between of Dom and Cena. She attacks Dom, dude. She literally attacked Dom, or so we thought. And then she would go over to John Cena. She'd start hugging him like she would Dominic Mysterio. But then she gets this look, just like John Cena did when he turned heel at Elimination Chamber. She gets that look in her eyes, jumps off of John Cena, and then kicks him right in the freaking nuts, and then goes back to, and then she's back with Dom. So it was all a ruse. She attacks Dominic Mysterio, so we thought, but then we see her go over to John, and we get all this. So it's pretty much just one big freaking ruse, and then we would get Dominic's his 619 frog splash. 1, 2, 3, match is over. So for most of this match, I think it was pretty reused. I will say, I liked the double AA, and I liked the return of Liv Morgan. I think that was cool. I think that was very cool, actually. Those were both very cool points in this match. But for the most part of this match, I really thought it was all reused. It's just Dominic Mysterio cheating to win again, as you could expect. And then, obviously Dominic Mysterio is walking out your Intercontinental Champion here, which I don't really have a problem with that. I don't really care if you had Cena retain or lose. I really did not really mind, in my opinion. The one thing I will say is we're most likely not getting an end to the Judgment Day anytime soon, at least so is what it seems, because obviously Liv Morgan is back and still with Dom, so we'll have to see what goes on with that. But like I said, for the most of this match, I think most of it was reused, so most I could really say for this match is it was okay. Like I said, that Liv Morgan return, awesome, but for most of this match, I just was, not my cup of tea. It's just pretty much reused stuff that we've always seen over the past few weeks with John Cena and Dom, and just Dom over this entire year, anyways. Cheating in his matches. So that's really my only thoughts there. It was all right. Nothing really crazy. Pretty much mostly reused. All right. So next up, we would have Stephanie Vaquer defending her Women's World Championship against a newly healed Nikki Bella, and I mean, this match is very predictable. There's really not much to this match. I kind of already knew who was going to win this. I think everybody else did. There's no way they're giving this title to Nikki Bella, and that's exactly what happened. They did not give it to Nikki Bella, and it did stay on Stephanie. Very, very easy to figure that out. So as far as the outcome goes, this was a very predictable outcome here. As far as the in-ring match, I don't think it was terrible. I don't think it was anything super crazy. I think it was just all right. It's kind of what you would expect from this match. Honestly, it's really nothing super insane. Really, it's not terrible. Just all right. But yeah, I mean, it's all right. There's not much else to it. Not much else to really say about this match. There's a few cool spots. One of them being we saw a devil's kiss from Stephanie Vaquer onto the announcer's table to Nikki Bella, of course, which I think that was pretty cool. And then we also did see a nice little corkscrew, little thing, corkscrew, whatever they freaking call that thing that Stephanie does when she goes to the top rope, does that little corkscrew, little spiral type of thing. And then that is what got her the win. So I guess those moments were pretty cool. But as far as the rest of the match goes, it was just what you would expect. It's nothing terrible, not too crazy, but it's what you'd expect. So main takeaway here is Stephanie Vaquer still your Women's World Champion, and it was just an okay match. All right, man, and we ended the show with an absolute freaking banger, man, just like I knew it would be. I did a whole separate video on this just talking about how I knew this was going to be a banger match, and it was. So we jumped into the men's War Games match. On one team, we would have Brock Lesnar, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, and Drew McIntyre. On the other side, we would have Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Roman, Jimmy, Jay, why am I blanking? Roman, Jimmy, Jay, Punk, and Rhodes. So overall, I already knew this was going to be a maker match. It was freaking great. It represented War Games so much better than the women's side did. I love the use of weapons. Like, it's not even about, like, the type of weapon it is. It's just about more, like, the more use of weapons. I feel like we saw a lot more use of weapons and just overall aggression in this match, which I absolutely loved. Some of my favorite moments here were, at the start of the match, we would see a move. CM Punk goes top rope and Cody has Braun Breaker on his shoulders, and CM Punk does kind of like a diving punch, diving clothesline, diving forearm type of move, which inevitably leads to Braun Breaker pretty much landing on his neck, which looked really bad. He is good though, but looked freaking gnarly. Like, I would definitely not take that move. We also seen a pretty cool, like, aura moment, like Godzilla versus Kong type of moment between Brock and Roman, because as Roman comes out, Brock leaves the cage. He doesn't get disqualified because technically the match hasn't technically started yet, so but they kind of just stare down at the ramp, and then when they start brawling, that would lead to Roman delivering about like 3 or 4 Superman punches to Brock Lesnar before Brock picks him up, F5s him through the announcer's table, which was also very awesome. And then one of my other favorite moments was we saw the introduction of the brass knuckles again in this match from Logan Paul, which would inevitably, those would get twisted over to Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns would pretty much just Superman punch. He Superman punched Drew. I can't remember who else. Drew was the only one I remember because it was really cool. He Superman punched him out of the air when Drew was diving off, which I think was very freaking cool. But overall, man, this match was an absolute banger. And one more thing, when we got towards the end of the match, and we would see a mystery person dressed in all black. He climbs the cage, comes in, and he delivers a super kick to Punk and then a curb stomp. No, it's not Seth. There's no way. Like, if you guys look online, I don't personally have an image, but if you guys look online, it does not look like Seth. So he was completely masked in black, and he didn't even attack Braun Breaker. So that's kind of like how I know it wouldn't be Seth. And either way, it doesn't look like Seth. It doesn't look like Seth, Seth's body. So I'm kind of like, no, that's not Seth Rollins. So who is it? And we still don't know. So that's kind of cool that they left us on a cliffhanger, but that would lead to Braun Breaker pinning CM Punk 1, 2, 3. I think that Braun pinning CM Punk there, I think ultimately symbolizes that we are most likely going to get Braun Breaker as to who's next to defeat CM Punk and become the next World Heavyweight Champion, because, they're kind of, Braun Breaker obviously being portrayed as the guy who's next in line for the top of the WWE pretty much. So I think it kind of symbolizes that Braun Breaker is going to go after CM Punk continuously from here on out. But yeah, overall, such a better match. It was so freaking good. It's so awesome. It was so much better. It's exactly how I knew it would go, man. It was just so freaking great. There's nothing to hate about this match. And my final thoughts here, man. This this match portrayed War Games as it should be. It was an absolute banger. There was not one point where I was bored, and I loved everything that went into this freaking match. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up this year's Survivor Series War Games recap. And just for me personally, ranking the entire show, man, I gotta say, overall, it was not that good of a show. I think it was, some parts were good, and some others were just bad. So I'm gonna say it was a decent show at best. But I will say that main event, absolute banger. But just overall, I was not a major fan of the complete show as a whole. You know, the main match I liked was that men's War Games match. I liked parts of other matches, but consistently, I was not super intrigued until obviously the main event. So my rating here is it was decent, you know, nothing too crazy until obviously the end, but for the most part, nothing super crazy. But yeah, overall, a decent show. But as always, be sure to leave me your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, before we get out of here, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. Go follow the socials. Links to those will be in the description to this video. That includes my Instagram account and my X account. Do all that, helps me out a ton, and I will catch y'all boys in the next one. Peace.